Hi, I'm Brenda, and my video is about the book Presenting to Win, The Art of Telling Your Story by Jerry Wiseman. Presenting to Win, The Art of Telling Your Story by Jerry Wiseman provides invaluable information on how to create compelling and effective presentations. In contrast to other books that hint at the use of PowerPoint as visual aids, Wiseman explains specifically how to create effective visuals and discusses why some approaches work and others don't. Presenting to Win should be in the library of every successful educator interested in enhancing the educational value and impact of his or her presentations. About the author. This book is a fundamental when it comes to presentations. The heart of his message is the subtitle, The Art of Telling Your Story. The book is itself a great example of that message. Wiseman is a storyteller who has worked in television, movies, and corporate boardrooms. He's helped build compelling presentations at every level, of every format, for every type of audience. Through this book, he wants to help each and every one of us too. Jerry Wiseman is the world's #1 corporate presentations coach, the author of 5 best-selling books, including the text Presenting to Win. His private client list reads like a who's who of the world's best companies, including the top brass at Yahoo, Intel, Intuit, Cisco Systems, Microsoft, Adobe Labs, and many others. Jerry founded Power Presentations Ltd. in 1988, with an early success as the coach of Cisco Systems' IPO roadshow. Since then, Jerry has reached over 600 other IPO roadshow presentations, raising hundreds of billions of dollars. He has also helped thousands of companies to develop and deliver a multitude of winning business presentations. The most important topics: Whiffy, the 5 cardinal sins, and getting to know his or her audience. Whiffy is a very important technique to learn and use when you're trying to give a persuasive speech. What is Whiffy? Whiffy is an acronym for What's in it for you, a way to focus on benefits rather than features. It is to constantly ask the key question, what's in it for you? It's based on the more common axiom, what's in it for me? But they shifted the ultimate word to you, deliberately. Shift the focus from you to the audience. Why is Whiffy important to learn? Whiffy is a powerful tool, resource to rely on when trying to persuade someone into thinking a certain way, to get them from point A to B. How do you know when to use Whiffy and how? Well, you always want to find and state your Whiffy. In any presentation, before you make any statement about yourself, your company, your story, or the products or services you offer, stop and ask yourself, what's the Whiffy? What benefit does this offer my listener? As soon as you find out what your audience will benefit from your presentation, the better. You want to emphasize on that to keep their attention and persuade them in the direction you want to go. Whiffy is a really powerful tool that you can even apply in your personal life. For example, if you're trying to convince your spouse on something they normally wouldn't go for, how would you do it? Well, just like Whiffy technique explains, we want to find out what's in it for them, for you. If you know that they like or what they would want, we can alter the way we present our information to show that we can get out what they can get out of the deal. This way they see benefits for themselves and are a lot more likely to be persuaded. You can also use Whiffy wrong. How? When trying to formulate your Whiffy, you can accidentally lose sight of the you. You may bring out positive benefits about your product or company, but possibly to the wrong audience. For example, if you're presenting to investors but explaining how good your product works, they may not see the benefits of investing in you. You'd want to alter the you. You want to be sure you show the investors that you are getting what they are getting out of the deal, like profits or revenue. Using the Whiffy principle whenever we are giving a talk or presenting our company or product, we want to be sure to use Whiffy in the correct way. What benefits will my audience get out of this? By doing this, we can be sure our audience will move from point A to point B just as we please. Next, the 5 cardinal sins. Number 1, no clear point. Number 2, no audience benefit. Number 3, no clear flow. Number 4, too detailed. Number 5, too long. Number 1, no clear point. Few human activities are done as often as presentations and as poorly. One recent estimate has it that 30 million presentations using Microsoft PowerPoint slides are made every day. I'm sure you attended more than a few. How many of them were truly memorable, effective, and persuasive? Probably only a handful. Going back to number one, no clear point. The audience leaves the presentations wondering what it was about. How many times have you sat all the way through a presentation and at the end said to yourself, what was the point? Number two, no audience benefit. The presentation fails to show how the audience can benefit from the information presented. How many times have you sat through a presentation and repeatedly said to yourself, so what? Number three, no clear flow. The sequence of ideas is so confusing that it leaves the audience behind, unable to follow. How many times have you sat through a presentation and at some point said to yourself, wait a minute, how did the presenter get there? Number four, too detailed. So many facts are presented, including facts that are overly technical or irrelevant, that the main point is so obscure. How many times have you sat in on a presentation and at some point said to yourself, what does that mean? Number five, too long. The audience loses focus and gets bored before the presentation ends. How many times in your entire professional career have you ever heard of a presentation that was too short? This is why you want to avoid those 5 cardinal sins so no one gets bored. When presenters commit any of these sins, they are wasting the time and energy and attention of their audience. What's more, they are thwarting their own objectives. Each of these 5 sins is quite separate and distinct from the others. Here's an analogy to illustrate. Suppose you and I were chatting and I said, let me tell you about what I had for dinner last night. My presentation would have a point, wouldn't it? You know what I intended to do and I wouldn't be committing sin number 1. But why on earth should you care about what I had for dinner last night? Unless you had said, Brenda, I'm bored with all the restaurants in the area. Can I recommend a new place? Then by telling you about the excellent meal I had in a hot new bistro last night, I would be providing to you a benefit to you. I'd avoid sin number 2. Now if I told you about my fine meal by stating with the dessert, then I went back to the salad and jumped forward to the cheese course and back to the main course, my story would have no flow. If instead I went from soup to nuts, it would have a clear and orderly path. I eliminate sin number 3. If I describe the courses I ate by using phylum, class, order, genus, and species of every animal and vegetable product in the dinner, it would be far too technical and too detailed. If instead I confine my description to colorful adjectives and simple nouns, I would avoid sin number 4. Finally, if I took 5 hours to tell you about my meal, and it took me only 2 hours to consume, my presentation would be too long. If instead I did it in 5 minutes, I'd escape sin number 5. This analogy may be extreme, but the 5 cardinal sins are all too real, and although each of the 5 is unique and independent of all the others, they can still be summarized. Lastly, in my opinion, I think getting to know your audience is also so essential. I personally believe the best way to tailor a speech or presentations is to get to know the most you can about your audience. The more you know about them, even beyond the work level and more on a personal level, can really help you find out their needs and wants. You can think of ways to make them think what you're offering is something they really need and not just want. To get your audience to point B, you must learn to view yourself, your company, your story, and your presentation through the eyes of your audience. Before building your presentation, you want to get to know your audience thoroughly, at least to the best of your abilities. Your presentation will be more effective when you know what your audience is interested in. You want to find out things like what they care about, the problems they face, the biases they hold, the dreams they cherish, etc. You want to find out, can my audience benefit from my advice, products, or services that I'm offering? What sales goals do they need to reach on, and how can my services help them reach it? How can I make this a win-win presentation? Even though you know them as a company, a group of representatives, or marketplace, you want to remember they are human beings still. How can you get to know your audience on a more personal level? Well, ask questions. What are their biggest headaches, fears, worries, aspirations, need, love, and hates? How can what I have offer to serve them? Now lastly, how to incorporate into your job or aspirations. Who's my audience? Overall, Presenting to Win, The Art Telling Your Story was a great and educational book to read and study. The principles and guidelines in this book are really helpful to you present to win. Wiseman is such a genius with his concepts and advice he gives us. I really hope to use and grow from reading this book. I know that I can present things without being nervous. I am now aware of the do's and don'ts when preparing my speech or speech or company to anyone. Reading all the experiences helps me to see I can present to win and be successful in doing so in school, work, or personal life.